Morning, good morning. It's 3:01 a.m. I'm on my way to the gym. Yes. I am so thankful that I can wake up this morning, that my body is in good shape, my mind is in sound condition, and that I am extremely blessed. The more and more I wake up and I find myself in different situations, the more and more I find myself thankful. I remember an occasion when my grandmother had passed away, something very special had happened. A situation that I had been dealing with had come to an end, and it was mainly because I had made a decision that I was not going to just stand around after she had passed away and done nothing and just simply wept and cried and mourned all day long. Instead, I decided to get up and I decided to go on my trip to Chicago, and it was a business trip I had planned out. I had it already, scheduled, and so it was what it was, and I decided to go at the last minute, and it was hard to go, but I got there, and all I remember really about the whole trip was, getting an email about a situation I had been going through that was really serious, and being told that it had been 100% resolved, and matter of fact, it was going in my favor, of how it actually got resolved. So I think that was a huge blessing, and at that moment, I knew that my grandmother was up there. She was already calling in shots. She was already using her favor to help me out of a jam that I really couldn't see no way out. I couldn't. It was bad. I'll just put it like this. I was getting threatening notes from the government. My wife was getting threatening notes and calls, and we were just really being harassed to the infinite level. But then I went to a funeral Saturday of my buddy Lorenzo, who I just strongly believe is just amazing, And me and Lorenzo's relationship, though in the beginning it was working, it was still personal. I was his realtor. But even though it was a working relationship, it was also a personal relationship, because this man would call me in the middle of the night, as I'm sure he did a lot of people, and he would just pray over me and he would pray over my family, and that was just his nature. So I know that I was blessed to another degree just by being in his presence and knowing this man. And Saturday, I think it was Saturday. It was Saturday. I left his funeral. I didn't go to the burial site because I had an appointment that I had to get to. I had a previous obligation I had to get to, and I drove there, took care of that, and afterwards I was sitting down at a Starbucks in the middle of Tempe, somewhere I don't usually go. There happened to be a Starbucks there. I sat there, and this man came in, and he wasn't doing too well. And I said, "Hey, man, you need to sit down. You need to sit down. You need to get something to drink." I just asked him what I could do to help, and the guy was really unresponsive. But long story short, he ends up just leaving out the store. I don't know. It was weird. He was kneeled over. He wasn't doing good, and then next thing I know, he just decides to leave out the store, and he leaves. So that wasn't a big deal. But the moral of the story is, I'm thinking about Lorenzo, and I'm thinking about what's going on, and I'm just having one of those days. It's not bad. It's good. And I get a call from a complete stranger, from this lawyer that I did some business with years ago. And the lawyer had referred this guy to me, and the guy, he says, "Hey, listen, you've come highly recommended uh, by such and such." And I knew the name. It was a lawyer. I knew who he was, and I knew who he was talking about. I said, "Oh," I said, "Yeah, I know him very well." I said, "Tell me what it is that you're trying to do." He says, "Well, I got 5 acres. I got a 3,000 square foot home with an attachment that's another 1,700 square feet. I have a 42 by 40. I got a 24 by 40 foot pool." And it's sitting on 5 acres. And me and my wife have already bought another home in Texas because we're going out there to breed horses. Oh, yeah. And the land also has horse privileges. So we have horse stalls in there as well. And you come highly recommended. So we would like for you to come out and list our home. You know, when things like that happen, and I have to believe that when you're close to somebody who is really God fearing, when you're close to somebody who is really God fearing, I believe that that person that person becomes your guardian angel. I believe that that person becomes strongly entangled in your life to the point where even in passing, they're still there looking over you. I would actually challenge you to kind of be a little bit more aware of what's going on in this planet, in this world, so that you can start taking advantage of the things that are meant to come to you. See, because a normal person would have just said, "Hey, my work, my hard work, my whatever had brought this forward." But I have to believe that the situation with my grandmother wasn't by coincidence. I have to believe that this deal that transpired, that was a huge, huge situation. I mean, bigger than anything that I could have thought of, to be put in my lap on a Saturday afternoon by somebody that's completely removed 3 times over from my life. And this falls in my lap, and my buddy just gets buried in the ground, or at least his body. I'd challenge you for a second to open up your mind and understand that there's forces that's working in this world that are bigger than anything that you can imagine or even begin to contemplate or rationalize with. But the problem is we keep missing it because we think that the world completely revolves around what it is that we do, and that our actions, just by simply waking up, is everything in anything. That's such an ego problem right there. That's such an ego problem. And to think that you can't change, well, then that's just a lack of self esteem. Because if you look at me and you look at where I've come from, if I can change, and I'm not perfect, I have to throw that in there because some people might take it as he's saying he's better than us. No. And even if you do, I don't care. That's your problem. What I'm saying is, if I can change, you can change. Because I was the worst of the worst. I was sharing stories with my wife about things that I had been through and I had did in my life, and she looked at me in like amazement, like, "Oh my God, you did that?" Because not only did I return back to Florence to sell a lady her very first home for her and her kids, but I also returned back to Tempe where I got my very first armed robbery charge to put a home on the market for a client who I don't even know, and I don't know where he came from. When you start seeing that there's something in this planet bigger than you and you have a purpose bigger than what you think, that's when your life will start switching. Not until then.